Welcome along to this episode of It's Called Soccer, the show that brings you the biggest stories, the best guests, and so much more. I'm Rebecca Lowe, host of the Premier League on NBC, and I'm all by myself this week because Gary Neville turns 50, and he's taken Jamie Carragher and a bunch of his friends away to celebrate. Thanks so much for the invite. So it's just me, but don't worry because we have a ton coming up. We are looking forward to the opening weekend of a brand new Major League Soccer season coming up this Saturday and Sunday. Don't forget to subscribe to us every single week. We are coming out on Wednesdays, and you can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and on YouTube as well. Here's what's coming up on today's show. We are joined by our friends Reynoso and Soltero from the Give and Go podcast to discuss all the off-season storylines ahead of the new Major League Soccer campaign and also get their hot takes and predictions.
I think he can almost give Inter Miami kind of the same approach that coaches give LeBron in the NBA. Just kind of be a great guy, a locker room coach.
Yeah.
But let the main man do his best thing. Let him cook.
Former New England Revolution striker and now television analyst Taylor Twellman drops in to discuss the new MLS season and also Apple TV's new documentary, Onside, Major League Soccer.
At one point, this league was just trying to survive. Now it's thriving, and I think it's perfect timing to open the doors, open the access, and try to bring in people that aren't Major League Soccer fans in the moment.
And we bring you my exclusive interview with Phil Neville. We talk to the Portland Timbers head coach about the disappointment of last season's playoff defeat, his hopes for this campaign, and his love of all things America.
Do you know what I love about Americans? They love the English. They love.
Why do they love us?
Do you know they love my accent? And do you know
That's
what I mean? In
amazing.
England, everybody hates my accent, but here I'm posh.
That is all coming up on this week's It's Called Soccer. We are delighted to kick off this Major League Soccer special episode with two gentlemen who have kept us across all the action last season. It is great to welcome back Reynoso and Soltero from the Give and Go podcast. Hello guys, you look very rested because of course, as we were just saying before we pressed record, the off-season in Major League Soccer is the way forward. I like the length, chaps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Reaping the rewards of a great offseason, but at the same time, a very crazy one in the MLS.
Yeah.
We're talking about record signing players and then also some crazy player movement happening within the league. I mean, we're talking about big players just switching teams outright. So we've been rested, but we're also excited and ready to talk about all the crazy stuff that's happened in the league.
I want to get into all of that. So give me some of the biggest storylines that our viewers and listeners should know about as we head into the new season that starts at the weekend.
Well, I think first off, we got to acknowledge the 30th team to join the MLS, San Diego FC. They have a lot going for them, but I think more notably, the signing of Chucky Lozano. Yeah. And I think he has an insane opportunity to become an immediate club legend. Honestly, in the same vein that Carlos Vela achieved with LAFC, Chucky Lozano is going to have the exact same opportunity. He's still in his physical prime as well. Albeit, though, he's had a couple of strange seasons in Europe. The season at Napoli didn't really pan out. He's now gone back to the Netherlands to play football, but now he's here back in the Americas to play with San Diego, and I think he has a lot to prove, but he's still absolutely world class, and I think he's gonna have a great season with San Diego.
Yeah, I think he has an opportunity to really shine with San Diego FC, and just from the videos I'm seeing online, it looks like the people of San Diego are very excited to have a team represent them. Like, I think the energy is going to be incredible to see a 30th team join the MLS. I'm really excited to just see the overall impact that San Diego, another city from California, has on the league. I think it'll be immense. And also, I saw that they signed Luca de la Torre.
Oh, yeah.
U.S. men's national team player as well. So they got some players on their team.
Yeah, and not only that, they got Andres Reyes, the Colombian center back for New York Red Bulls, who was fantastic last season. And I don't know how, but for some reason there's a Danish contingent in San Diego. They signed 3 Danes over the offseason, and one of them being Anders Dreyer, an amazing player on the ball, very technical, very good off the pass. He went off for Midtjylland for a couple of seasons, actually played Liverpool in the Champions League. He was last at Anderlecht, and he's going to have an amazing season in the MLS. He's top tier for sure. So San Diego, low-key, might have an immediately really good season off the bat.
Well, it's really interesting you talk about them because I was actually at the Coachella MLS preseason tournament down in Palm Springs 10 days ago. So I actually met Lozano very, very briefly, I asked for a selfie with my little boy. Yeah. So my little boy got a selfie with him. He had to join the line because, as you say, he is already so popular. Actually, when I was at the tournament, if you looked around the crowd, it was overwhelmingly San Diego fans that were there. So that was interesting. Obviously, it's close to San Diego. They're going to make the journey, maybe more than, a team from Chicago or fans from Chicago, maybe. But it was just interesting. They really made the effort. They came in their groups. There was a lot of singing and a lot of love for Lozano. So really looking forward to seeing how he gets on. What else? What about Inter Miami's new manager?
Obviously, Inter Miami has to be the next biggest storyline with how they catastrophically went out in the playoffs last year to Atlanta United, a year when many thought they would go on to win the trophy. They have resurged. They have rebuilt their team this offseason, starting off with the head coaching position, getting rid of Tata Martino and bringing in Argentine defensive legend Javier Mascherano, man. Big name. Can he actually do it, though? Can he will this team? And what's basically his first big gig as a coach.
Yeah, I mean, we have Lionel Messi, Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets, Luis Suarez. And the Barcelona contingency continues with this signing of Mascherano. I honestly can't believe it. David Beckham and co are just basically recreating Barcelona 10 years later. Honestly, I'm here for it because the football we get is absolutely top tier. We get entertained from that perspective. But I agree. There's some interesting things here with Mascherano, considering his only coaching stint has been at youth level with Argentina. He took the youth side of Argentina to the Olympics. It was a quarterfinal exit. Not terrible. Also not probably what they were expecting, but this is his first true coaching position at club level. I think it'll be okay considering he has an excellent relationship already with those 4 Barcelona players. Now it's just about getting the rest of the team shaped around them. So I'm not too worried about that. And, he's a defensive legend. The pressure that he's been suspect to throughout his entire career, it's not going to be any different than what he experiences here in the MLS. It'll just be curious to see how he handles the early season pressures, considering that Miami are going to be part of 4 massive tournaments this year.
4 massive tournaments. And I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest Tata Martino fan, so I think it won't be that difficult to top the stint that he had with Inter Miami.
Sure.
I think he can almost give Inter Miami kind of the same approach that coaches give LeBron in the NBA. Just kind of be a great guy, a locker room coach, but let the main man do his best thing. Let him cook. And I think as long as Messi has those facilities and gets that deeper line in the back, like it defensively gets more units back there, I think this team could definitely be a lot better this upcoming year than what we saw this past year.
Guys, just quickly on Inter Miami before we move on to the players. Is it now, the way that they're building the club with those superstars as you just talked about, is it now for any manager coming in, unless you basically win the cup, you're out?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you look at the talent that they have, silverware has to be the objective every single season. It's why I don't think we should discredit the fact that they got knocked out in the first stage of the playoffs last year. That was terrible for them.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure for them to really succeed this year. I mean, in the spring, we have the CONCACAF Champions League. Yep. They're going to be expected to go all the way there. Then right in the middle of the summer, there's the FIFA Club World Cup. That's going to be a different task, but you would still like to see Miami be successful in some way. Then immediately after that, Leagues Cup. And then they're going to have to finish the season very strongly to pick up momentum to go into the playoffs. There's a lot of pressure on Miami to succeed. And when you have Messi on the side, you want to see him lift silverware at the end of the season.
Yeah, and it's why offensively I'm not that concerned, but with their defense, that was the biggest thing that I saw as a fault last year.
Yeah.
They got Colo-Colo's finest, Maxi Falcon, who made a deep run in the Copa Libertadores last year, guiding his back line. He's a crazy player. Afro is just an incredible look to him. Make sure to check him out this year because you'll either love him or hate him, but he is a must-watch defensive player that will be in that Inter Miami back line.
Okay, perfect. That's what we want. Characters. I love it. Okay, so we've just mentioned a ton of big names, but Inter Miami are not the only club with big names. Who have FC Dallas signed?
Oh, yeah. One of the most entertaining players in the league, Luciano Acosta. Yeah. That's who FC Dallas get. And if you're an FC Dallas fan, you should be incredibly excited. 14 goals, 18 assists last season. And even without those stats, he's just completely filthy on the ball. And he is one of the most, it's truly entertaining players from a creative perspective. So he's just going to be an absolute joy to watch. And he's going to be playing ball in Dallas. So it's going to be so fun to see Acosta play.
I think Acosta is going to be incredible. But we had some other notable signings. I believe Atlanta United completely reinforced their offensive line with guys like Miguel Almiron coming back. The return, Miguel Almiron Part 2 is coming back to Atlanta United, where he absolutely thrived and then made a move to Newcastle United. I'm excited to see him. And then MLS record signing Emmanuel Latte Lath, around $21 million, I believe, from Middlesbrough. I think he's going to be a very fascinating player to watch. Can he live up to that money tag? Because if he does, he could end up being the top goal scorer in the league this year.
Yeah, dude, I can't believe Almiron's back in the MLS. I really can't, because 7 years ago when he was here, he won the MLS Cup. In only his second year in the MLS as well, he was the heartbeat of Atlanta United's offense. And now he's back. It's ridiculous. He had an insane career in the Premier League with Newcastle. And though, time has maybe taken a bit of its toll with his pace, he's still only 30 years old. And I think he has so much to give back to the Atlanta United community. So I think it's going to be really fun to see. And yes, he's not alone at Atlanta, as he'll be partnered up top alongside Emmanuel Latte Lath, Middlesbrough striker, very clinical, very powerful. Your classic number 9 will be a nuisance in the box. You give him an inch in that space, he's going to pull the trigger. So I think Atlanta United have a lot to give this season, especially considering they had a good playoff run last year. And if they can just build off of that with these new signings, Atlanta United is going to be definitely a team to watch out for this year.
Well, guys, I was there 18 months ago when Newcastle United played in Atlanta's stadium, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, right? I think I'm right in saying? Yeah, for the Premier League Summer Series. And honestly, I got quite emotional the way that the fans reacted to Miguel Almiron. Honestly, it was so lovely. He was tearful. And he played brilliant. I think he scored even. It was just such a lovely evening. So now that I know he's going back, that is going to be, it's a little bit like David Moyes going back to Everton. It just feels right, doesn't it? It's one of those moves. Do you think now, with that starting front line you just talked about, Atlanta could be real contenders?
I have them as my surprise pick. I know we haven't gone to the predictions yet, but I have them as my surprise pick. Seeing what they did last year to Inter Miami in the Cinderella-like run they went on the MLS playoffs, they just got better in my opinion. And if they live up to the potential, I think they could definitely be a contender as a surprise team that makes it to the finals.
Gentlemen, I normally, she exits stage left, have a shirt behind me that is red and blue, right? But because we're doing a Major League Soccer one, I've got to have my Philadelphia Union, partly because, of course, right now the Super Bowl, that city, etc., but also because they gave it to me when we did the Fan Fest in Philadelphia. So I'm also open to any other Major League Soccer clubs if you want to send me shirts. Yeah, shout out Philadelphia. But the reason why I have to get this out and give it as much love as possible all times is because the other player that's really made a big headlines coming to Major League Soccer in the off-season is the best player to ever play in the Premier League for Crystal Palace. The man that just gets bums off seats, and that is Wilfried Zaha. He has gone to Charlotte FC under Dean Smith. I am turning on Charlotte games to see Wilfried Zaha. He is just brilliant. Now, I know it hasn't really worked out, hasn't it, at Galatasaray, where he went on loan. He's now coming on loan to Charlotte, and hopefully for a good stretch of time. I think there's maybe even an option, chaps, isn't there, to take it all the way through until the World Cup. I really think he needs this move. How do you think he will go down in Major League Soccer? I'm so excited.
I mean, I'm very excited at the prospect, the opportunity that awaits him. I think there's a chance here for him to become a Charlotte FC fan favorite right off the bat. He is electric. He is fun to watch. I mean, Rebecca, you know him very well. He is just an incredible player to watch when he's at his absolute best. I do think he has the talent and the facilities to be able to continue going off in the MLS, given that, yes, he's fallen off a little bit in terms of his stints at Galatasaray or at Lyon, for example. But now I think the chips are falling in his favor to potentially have a very great season with Charlotte FC. So I'm just as excited as you. I think it's going to be must-watch TV, and I hope he lives up to the potential.
Yeah. What's weird is that a lot of MLS pundits were very critical of the signing, actually. They were not a fan of it.
Why?
It goes down to what you were mentioning, Rebecca. His last 2 seasons in his career have been a little strange. Going to Galatasaray, while he did have a decent season, it didn't really pan out the way they wanted it to. They wanted to at least make a good Champions League appearance. They tried. And then after that, this loan to Lyon just absolutely did not work out. And I think they're just critical of the fact that he is 32 years of age, right? So it's not like he's young at all. Pace is a large part of his game. Maybe that's taking a toll now, considering his age. But I think if he goes into this with a good mentality, he's going to go absolutely off. I have no doubt about that. He's absolute class on the ball. He's blistering on that left-hand side. So I think Zaha is going to be fantastic, but he's going to have to be committed to Charlotte's conservative style of play. And I think that's why people are a little bit hesitant about Zaha going to Charlotte.
Okay, predictions time. You guys have already sort of hinted on your surprise team, but let's just absolutely double confirm it. Surprise team to go deep in the playoffs.
I mean, for me, it is Atlanta United. I'll throw in a fun FC Dallas pick if Luciano Acosta can play at his MVP levels.
Yeah, all right. Hear me out on this one. I'm going to go Austin FC. They didn't make the playoffs last year. They're going through a transitionary period, but I think they're going to surprise, truly. They have a really good coach in Nico Esteves. He has good MLS experience, but they also just signed Ilie Sanchez from LAFC. He's going to bring MLS Cup winning experience to the side. They did get rid of their star player, Sebastian Driussi. He's gone off to River Plate. Good for him because he was so good at Austin. But the players we got in his stead, I think, are going to give a lot for Austin. Specifically, we signed Brandon Vasquez from Monterrey. In his time with Cincinnati, he was a clinical goal scorer. I think he has a lot to prove. His stint in Mexico didn't fully work out, but he knows the MLS. We know he can score goals. I think he's going to go off for Austin. But I think the most underrated signing in the MLS is actually Austin FC's, and it's Mirto Uzuni. This isn't a joke. I've been watching him for the last 4 years. He went off in Hungary with Ferencváros, and he's been playing in the second division of Spain with Granada. 14 goals in 18 appearances just this season. He has a 50% goal to game ratio over the last 5 years. He is a machine in front of goal. He's going to get going for Austin FC, guaranteed. And I think Austin FC are going to take that into a decent playoff run. I don't think they'll win, but I do think they can make a statement this year.
All right, keeping an eye on that for sure. Biggest letdown. Who do you think's going to let us all down, guys?
I have tough time investing my faith in not just one, but both LA teams this year. I'm going to be honest.
Ooh, the champions.
I know, right?
Yeah, I'll start with LAFC. I mean, it's a hot take, but I got to start with LAFC. They just lost Bogus, who went off for them last year to the one and only Cruz Azul of all teams. They lose him, and I think that's a big offensive component. And they didn't really seem to reinforce their offensive line or their midfield with losing Ilie Sanchez as well. So I see things getting very tricky for LAFC. And for LA Galaxy, it's more so just, Ricky Puig having that ACL tear happen near the final. I think that's a big miss for them. Their best player absolutely will be gone for half the season. And then they lose Dejan Jovalic, who's going over to Sporting KC, who formed an integral part of their front line. That was kind of what I liked so much about them, was that they had such a variety of weapons. Now they're much more limited, missing two out of what I would call four great offensive weapons that they have. I think that's going to prove to be a very tough thing to overcome throughout the season.
Yeah, and I have to echo that last point. LA Galaxy, I do think, are going to flop this season. And it's so frustrating because I think if they just kept the same 11 starters, I do think they would have been title contenders. The Ricky Puig thing is just unlucky. There's nothing we can do about that. He's going to be out for more than half the season. But getting rid of Dejan Jovalic, I can't believe they went with that decision. Sporting KC get one of the most lethal strikers in the MLS, but for LA Galaxy, they haven't replaced him. So that's 20 goals gone right there. Maybe they make a signing in the summer, but I think the first half of the season is going to be a struggle for LA.
Yeah, the thing is, they just won the World Series and they got Doncic in the NBA. They'll be fine.
Yeah,
They'll be fine.
The city of LA is going to be just fine.
Okay. Right, guys, I need a name from you. Top MLS goal scorer. The bookmakers have Shock. Messi's number one. Shock. Suarez is number two. Who are you going for? Give me a name, chaps.
As long as he's healthy, as long as he plays as many games as possible, it has to be the one and only Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
I really don't have anybody else that could top him if he plays the games that he should be playing.
Yeah, I'll go Suarez just because I think he'll be fed by Messi on a day-to-day basis, essentially, and that's a good, healthy diet. But I'll give Kevin Danke a good shout. He just got signed from FC Cincinnati. He is an absolutely clinical goal scorer. But not only that, he likes to come in deep, get involved with the play. He's a decent dribbler for a number 9. I think if he gets going, if Cincinnati sign a really good playmaker alongside him, I think Denki's going to score over 20 goals this season. So I'll give those players a shout.
Yeah. And I'll throw in Emmanuel Latte-Lath real quick.
Oh, yeah, we should.
Because he averaged 15 in the championship for 2 seasons straight. I'll throw him in since he's a record signing.
Okay, and then sort of similar-ish question as often is, the top scorer is often MVP. Who are you going for?
I mean, Messi, right? I really do think so.
I think it's going to be Messi. Even if he's the second or third best, you know how the MLS operates, they'll probably give it to Messi. So I'm going to put my bets on Messi getting it this year.
He'll still be winning it when he's retired.
Exactly.
All right, so the bookies in terms of the champions have got Inter Miami as favourites. They've got LAFC as second favourites. They've got your letdowns as LA Galaxy as third favourites. Give me your champions. Go.
I just think it has to happen at some point. It has to happen. Like the things that have been said about Messi, the things people have done so far, the impressive moments, the new coach in Mascherano, like I'm going to put the pressure on Inter Miami to finally deliver that MLS Cup. It has to happen now. Otherwise, this might not end up being the project that many saw out. So yeah, I think it's now. It's now or never for Inter Miami.
No, absolutely. I really do think Miami are probably the favorites. The bookies have them as the favorites. It makes sense for all the reasons that you just pointed out. Also consider there's just been so much change in the MLS this season. I think, it might take teams a while to get going, whereas Miami still have a large core of their team still intact. But I think that's going to make it even more exciting because, again, Cincinnati getting a player like Denki, I think is just absolutely exhilarating for the league. Columbus Crew got rid of Cucho Hernandez. I think that's going to take a big toll. Yeah. Jim Curtin's no longer the coach of Philadelphia. So there's just so much change this offseason. So I think it all sets it up for Inter Miami to end up as champions.
Okay, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure as always. So excited for opening weekend. I know you are too. We will speak to you throughout the season. Enjoy opening weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
Rebecca. You.
This episode of It's Called Soccer is brought to you by Huel. Huel. I mean, what's your favourite flavour?
Chocolate. It's always chocolate.
I'm vanilla. And you know the reason why I'm vanilla?
Because Gary Neville's vanilla.
No, as a person. Not that he likes it. I mean, if you describe Gary Neville as a person and personality, he's vanilla. He's just, there's nothing really there. There's no real substance, but this is absolutely lovely.
This has got serious substance. This is the black edition, ready to drink. And do you know, let me test you, do you know how many grams of protein it's got in it?
35 about, I think.
Just about that. And you know what, Jamie? With all the Champions League knockout games this week and Man City against Liverpool in the Premier League, if you're rushing around, and I know you are because your schedule's mad, just like Gary's, and you don't get to eat a meal and you rush out the house and you don't really want to stop at one of those motorway service stations, do you know what I mean? Grab a Huel, take it in the car, I like mine chilled, fills you right up, don't have to worry about it.
I am going to the Etihad with my Huel because that is going to need me to be on the move to get there, basically. It's a huge game. There's a big rivalry there, and I'm going to think you're going to need that 35 grams of protein. If you're a Liverpool supporter going to the Etihad, we know there's been a bit of rivalry between the supporters, all healthy rivalry, but you might need about 35 grams of protein and a bit of Huel there. It's a big rivalry, and that's what I'll be having.
You might also need your 27 vitamins and minerals as well. And also... Right? And if you're a Liverpool fan, or actually if you're anybody, you can pick your flavour. Strawberry banana, chocolate like me, vanilla like you, vanilla like Gary. Gary is vanilla till he dies. And there's also an iced coffee flavour as well. So there's a whole mixture going on. It's quick, it's affordable, it's quality nutrition with Huel, the ultimate meal on the go. And they have an offer, Jamie. I shall tell you the details about the offer.
Does this apply to me and you? Does this offer apply to us?
Well, I'm not a new customer. And neither are you, because we've got them in our hands. But if you are, if you are a new customer, you can get this exclusive offer, 15% off for your first order, plus a free gift. And all you have to do, look at you having a little drink, is use the code ICS at huel.com/ICS. That is 15% off, plus a free gift for new customers with our exclusive code ICS at huel.com/ICS. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, all the best.
Okay, everybody, we are now delighted to welcome an MLS legend to It's Called Soccer. He played 174 times in the league for the New England Revolution. He scored 101 goals and still remains the youngest player ever to have reached the 100 mark, which he did by the age of 29. He is a two-time Golden Boot winner and was the league MVP in 2005. He played 30 times for the US men's national team, and now, as you will well know, he plies his trade in the commentary booth as the lead colour analyst for Apple TV's Major League Soccer coverage. A warm welcome to the one and only Taylor Twellman. By the way, I was talking to the Give and Go guys earlier on in our podcast, the off-season of Major League Soccer. I mean, look at you. You look relaxed, you look chilled, you guys get 4 months off. I mean, what a great gig.
4 months off? Who are you talking to? Rebecca, yeah, I'm going to surprise you a little bit. I'm graduating from college. I finished my degree. I did my last class in January. I took it for 5 hours a day for 4 weeks. So in May, this 45-year-old's going to be walking with a bunch of 21-year-olds to get their college degree.
Hang on a second. Tell me more about the degree. What's it in? Everything.
So I went back to University of Maryland when NIL came into the, I would say, college sports landscape. My former coach, Sasha Sarovsky, he reached out to me and he said, you need to finish your degree. And COVID happened literally like 6 to 7 months later. So honestly, Rebecca, it was a gift for me because every class was online. So I just literally rolled up my sleeves. It was interesting. I'll tell a quick story. So one of my classes, it's about 250, 300 students. It's on Zoom. And some kid, literally because it is a kid, he looks at it and he says, look at this guy. He says he's Taylor Twellman. And I've got my screen off on the Zoom. So I pop it. And Rebecca, he's ripping me a new one by some comment I had about Arsenal on social media and on SportsCenter. So I pop my camera on and I just do one of these like, hey, what's up? And to this kid's credit, he put 2 feet in, he got stuck in and still stayed ripping me a new one. And then the professor emails me on the side and he says, maybe we just don't turn on our camera and can you change your name? So yeah, this 45-year-old's graduating college.
Well, good for you, Tay. Congratulations. Good for you. That is brilliant. I do love it, though, that you're getting trolled at school as well as on the internet. That just absolutely makes my day. I love it. Yep. Okay, let's get stuck into some Major League Soccer, shall we? Lots of big names have come in during the off-season. What are you most excited about in terms of those new players, Tay?
I loved what Carlos Vela did at LAFC, so I'm really intrigued what Chucky Lozano is going to do at San Diego. San Diego, literally 48 hours ago, as you and I are talking, just beat the New York Red Bulls 6-0. And it was a combination of their first team and second team players, and it was the New York Red Bulls first team. I'm very intrigued to see what they are. Obviously, 30th year, 30th, franchise, and it's in San Diego. And as someone that grew up in St. Louis, for so many years, San Diego and St. Louis were synonymous with the game. And so it's going to be real good to have San Diego in that climate and in that market in Major League Soccer. I'm also intrigued to see, Cucho Hernandez was one of the best players, if not the best player in the league, other than Lionel Messi. I love what the ownership group at Columbus did by doing right by him because the Colombian national team coach tells him in order to go to the World Cup, you got to be playing in one of the top 4 leagues in the world. So they bit the bullet. They move on from Cucho. And yet Wilfried Zaha is one of the best managers in all of Major League Soccer, yet they haven't replaced him yet. Who do they replace him with? How much do they spend and go out and do so? Atlanta's back, Rebecca. They're back. They went out. They spent real money. Miguel Almirón, who was very strong contributor at Newcastle, but in this league, he returns to a place that he lit on fire. I think he's going to be chomping at the bit to be real successful. And quite frankly, Atlanta hasn't really been back until they upset Messi, Suarez, and Miami in the playoffs. I would say I'm really intrigued to see what that looks like.
Where do you stand on the Wilfried Zaha signing at Charlotte?
I'm indifferent on it because it wouldn't surprise me if he scores 15 goals. It also wouldn't surprise me if he really struggles. I don't think people fully understand what this league is and the travel component and the weather component and just it's different. However, However, there have been some players that have come here and surprised people. I don't think Zaha is going to be surprised because I'm sure people have already told him. It's not as if Steven Gerrard is showing up at LA Galaxy, Rebecca, and all of a sudden say, whoa, I did not expect this. I think he's done his due diligence. I think Charlotte and Dean Smith have prepped him. So I would say I expect him to score 15 goals. But if you call me in August and we're looking at a guy that's maybe got 4 goals, 3 assists, or whatever it is, you and I would probably have a good conversation about saying some players struggle. Listen, Thierry Henry came into this league, took him a while. Tim Cahill, it took him a while. They got acclimated, but very few players showed up here like Robbie Keane and Zlatan and Didier Drogba did. So I'm interested to see what the first 6-7 games look like for Charlotte and Zaha.
Taylor, we also wanted to ask you about the new documentary coming out on Apple TV, Onside Major League Soccer. It's coming out, I think, over this weekend, this coming Friday. I've been lucky enough to see a few episodes from it. Really enjoyed it, of course, because there is never anything better, especially in football where, of course, growing up in England, there is just hardly any access, right? But to see a documentary where talked about Wilfried Zaha, talk about Pat Noonan, like they're all mic'd up, the players are giving great interviews, you're in the locker room, you're in the coach with them on the way to games, you're finding out everything that goes on behind the scenes, and you're learning a lot about the characters of Major League Soccer. How much do you think this documentary?
Oh, I think it was desperately needed, and I could make an argument it's 20 years too late because I think it's going to give a real insight into what this league is, and a league that I love, a league that I've been with and been connected with and played in. And honestly, Rebecca, Drive to Survive brought F1 to everyone in the United States.
Yeah.
I don't think there were a ton of F1 fans here in the United States, and yet that documentary brought it into households that maybe weren't racing fans. I think Major League Soccer is going to get this. There's a ton of characters in this league. There always has been. I think one of the best parts of Major League Soccer versus the Premier League, and you and I have talked about this, we get access. John Champion came over here, and the first thing he said was, it is remarkable how I can just call a coach and call a president, call general manager, and have that conversation with them. So I think this documentary is going to be really good. I would be stunned if there's not a second and third part to this because I think there's going to be an appetite for really into it. And I think it's great that it's happening in the 30th year.
Welcome to Major League Soccer in 2024.
It's just a massive moment to have exceptional players playing in this country. But this league is a tough league.
Ready?
This is soccer. This is the life.
There's always someone better, faster, stronger. You just got to keep up.
Have a family, as you get older, it gets harder. Missing this time with him is valuable.
Kevin Sullivan, 14 years old.
I worry about him, but I think he's pretty grounded.
When you come from Barcelona, you always need to prove that you come from Barcelona.
Ricky Pooch. Oh, it's got in!
I try to teach them, we fail, but because of those failures, you're going to win.
My journey is nothing short of incredible.
My objective is to win trophies, and I know what's expected of us.
All right, let's go. Push on, boss. 1, 2, 3.
Rebecca, at one point, this league was just trying to survive. Now it's thriving, and I think it's perfect timing to open the doors, open the access, and try to bring in people that aren't Major League Soccer fans in the moment.
Yeah, and it's important to say, you mentioned Drive to Survive. It is the same production team that have produced this documentary. Taylor,
Yep.
One thing, you talk about maybe there might be another series and another series. I wonder whether we'll get to a time where we can almost do it in real time. So almost a documentary episode comes out on the Sunday night or the Monday morning. So we see what happened yesterday, but we see it the next day behind the scenes. That would be a dream, wouldn't it?
The way you just put that into words is exactly what I think all of us are craving in the moment, aren't we? Because now we've kind of had the documentaries, we've had that experience, but we know, look at the Man City one. We know that was a lot of propaganda behind that, right? That wasn't completely just straight, right from raw cuts. Imagine having that. You've seen some of these episodes. I've been there for over 1,200 hours of that camera being taped and following whatever games we were doing. These producers and directors of Drive to Survive and now Onside, it's raw. And I think when you see a couple of the episodes, I think people are going to text me and say, that literally happened. I'm going to say, yes, but I couldn't agree with you more. Imagine watching a game Friday night in MLS and Sunday night is the behind the scenes, almost similar to the way the Super Bowl is, right? We get the audio of the Super Bowl right after, literally 48 hours later. I think eventually, Rebecca, I think that's coming. It's got to.
It has to. It absolutely has to. It will turn it into almost like a soap opera where you have to tune in every week for the episode.
Agreed.
And yeah, that would be absolutely magic. Okay, so I've got to go here because I feel like it's come up again in conversation a lot in a few recent weeks. You know where I'm going. So USL has come out with their decision to create themselves a pyramid with USL 2 with all of the different levels, and they are going to begin promotion and relegation with that triangle. Major League Soccer, we know Don Garber has said at times, look, it's probably going to come at some point, but I just don't know when it'll come. Taylor, I feel so strongly. I have lived here now for over a decade. I have an 8-year-old boy that plays soccer every week. I want this country to be the best in soccer. I want it to have the best league. I want it to be the best. I mean, maybe not quite as good as England, but I want it to be really good on the international stage because I'm a citizen. I have so much love for this country. I just want everybody to get out of their own way, sit around a table like grown-ups and say, you know what, let's merge and create the most unbelievable pyramid, which then would attract incredible players because let's face it, this is an incredible country with so much to offer. Please give me some hope, Taylor, that one day everybody will grow up, get out of their own way and give us something which gives us dreams, which gives us jeopardy, which gives us traction, which gives us viewers. Tell me it's going to happen, Tay. Tell me, please.
Rebecca, I can't sit here into this camera and in this mic and say it's never going to happen because they're always – they told me 5 years ago there's no way we're going to move this schedule and change to the calendar of Western Europe. They're having that conversation right now. They are legitimately looking at how to make sure the transfer markets are aligned so the players and owners make money. Now, what's interesting about the USL announcement is it's as intriguing as anything I've ever seen. But there's also Paul McDonough, rightfully so, said we've got to get our ducks in a row. We've got to do a lot of things to make sure we're lined up to be successful. But this tells me one thing. Everyone in this market and everyone in this country, the World Cup is here in less than 18 months. And they're trying to use it as any which way they can. And who knows? I think personally, out of this USL announcement, you and I are going to be surprised about two markets that I would have never told you. Because, Rebecca, if you would have told me 10 years ago that Cincinnati, Austin, Charlotte, Nashville would have the markets that we have and have the ownerships that we have, I would have looked into this camera and said, you guys you're out of your mind. You're out of your coconut. I am continuously surprised by this league. I'm continuously surprised by this country. And quite frankly, you are right. The quicker they get on board, all aligned under U.S. Soccer, absolutely. But I don't think anything's going to stop Major League Soccer from growing. And if that means promotion relegation, then they're going to look at that. The fact that they're looking at the schedule, and you and I are going to do a podcast in about 9 to 10 months and probably talking about an announcement, Rebecca, that tells me that this thing's growing a little bit faster than I think 5-10 years ago they thought. There are a lot of bullish owners in this league now. And I would have said 10 years ago, it ain't going to happen. I don't know if I can say that and be 100% honest with you and say, there's going to be some owners that look at it and say, this is interesting.
Well, I asked you to give me hope. You have definitely given me hope. And I would say that, let's say when that happens, whenever it is, Taylor, there is no doubt in my mind, watch out the rest of the world. Watch out the rest of the world.
Oh, you'll be throwing a party in 2 seconds.
Number one, I'm throwing a party. Number two, I'm thinking the rest of the world is going to be scared internationally and in terms of domestic leagues, because it is, if people say Major League Soccer is going to be in the top 5 leagues in 10 years, it's going to be in the top 3, it's going to be the top 2 if they do this. So, okay, fingers crossed, super hopeful for that. Okay, let's just quickly, before we let you go, get you in some predictions for the new season. Now, of course, New England Revolution is your club. Everybody knows that. They had a tough time last season, finishing in 14th position, second bottom of the league. So, in the Eastern Conference. So, are you looking at a better season for New England Revolution this year, Taylor?
Good question. Great question. Caleb Porter, in his second season with every club he's been at, has won an MLS Cup.
Well, it's like Ange Postecoglou.
Do I think the New England Revolution... Yeah, exactly. Do I think they win MLS Cup? No. Do I think they're better than the place and the points and everything that you just mentioned? I do. I just don't think Caleb Porter he's not the manager that he is if they're going to be successful. I think the East is difficult, though, Rebecca. It really is. I think right now you're talking to me February, the week before the season kicks off, Cincinnati with now Evander and Denke, Atlanta, Miami. Like, it's just difficult to look at that and say the Revs are going to be at the top 3 or 4 of this. I think their goals are going to change. They're going to make the playoffs. But I think it's going to be not as easy as you think, because I just think the cream rises to the top in the Eastern Conference. And I think this summer, with a few more players coming in, I just think it's going to be difficult for the Revolution.
Okay, Taylor, you are, of course, the encyclopedia on Major League Soccer, the go-to guy. So if I was going to look out for maybe an up-and-coming young player, a new face maybe, a youngster that we can get excited about, can you give me one?
Yeah, it's Denke for Cincinnati. Rebecca, he's 23 years old, soon to be 24. He has scored at every level he's been at, whether it's been Belgium or whatever it is. He has scored 15-plus goals a year. I will be stunned if he's not in the top 3 of goal scorers this year right away. And now you throw Evander and the way he played for Phil Neville in Portland last year. I think Denke is going to be a very interesting one. I'll be stunned if he doesn't win Newcomer of the Year, and it would not surprise me 1 second if he doesn't win the Golden Boot. I think this is a guy that, they go out and spend $13 million plus on him. It wouldn't surprise me if he bangs in a ton of goals, and then all of a sudden Cincinnati's like, wait a minute, we're getting a $25 million offer for him. It could be that. The other one that's going to be interesting because it's in your neck of the woods, keep an eye on Gabriel Peck going to the Premier League this summer. I think the Galaxy are going to have to make a difficult decision. I think Gabriel Peck's going to have a real offer. There were a little bit of whispers, but you and I both know the transfer window in the summer, it gives them more options. It gives clubs a better idea of the pocket of money they have. It wouldn't surprise me either if he's in the Premier League the way Miguel Almiron left Atlanta United to go to Newcastle.
Okay, I love that. Evander's just been announced, by the way. We're recording and Evander's been announced in the last hour, and it is a really interesting story. I went to see Phil Neville last week, and obviously he knew that he was gonna leave. It's such a huge loss for Portland Timbers, but yeah, looking forward to seeing him at Cincinnati. And finally, who are your eventual champions?
Oh man,
I know.
I'll be prisoner of the moment just because I saw them play their last preseason game. I just think Inter Miami, if Messi stays healthy, you're looking at a guy that can have 30 goals, 20 assists. He played 19 games last year and had 36 goal contributions. I think he's going to want to operate at a level, Rebecca, going into the World Cup that he wants to be that. He's 37, and in a World Cup qualifier for Argentina, he's still the best player on the field. Inter Miami, everything revolves around him. And I think he's got a real bone to pick. I think it bothers him that he got injured and missed 2 months on a gruesome tackle in Copa America. And he knows better than anyone. If he was fully fit and fully healthy, they don't lose to Atlanta. They probably win the double. I think they're going to be motivated. I think they're going to try to beat their record for most points in the regular season. But I think they're going to 100% want to try to win MLS Cup. And I'd be shocked if they're not in it.
Okay, Taylor, where are you for the opening weekend?
I got a doubleheader. So we've got Sunday night soccer this year, Rebecca, and I love it. So Sunday night, game of the week, it is a standalone game. And Saturday, there's going to be multiple weekends that I do doubleheaders. So I'll kick off the season, Miami Messi against New York City, hop on a plane, and then we'll see the Galaxy get their rings in San Diego, make their first MLS game debut in the backyard of both San Diego and LA. It's going to be as fun as ever.
Oh, wow, what a first weekend. Taylor, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, you can catch Taylor's analysis all season long on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. We are a subscriber in this house. And a reminder that the streaming service's new 8-part documentary, Onside, Major League Soccer, you heard Taylor talk about it, is coming out this Friday. Get some binge watching action ahead of the weekend and you will absolutely love it, I promise. Taylor, thank you so much. Have an amazing season. We'll speak soon. Now it is time for our exclusive interview with Phil Neville. I caught up with the head coach of the Portland Timbers in Palm Springs a week or so ago at their pre-season training camp as he gets his side ready for another tough campaign of Major League Soccer action. Well, Philip, this is the last time I ask your brother and tell him...
Where is he?
This is the last time I tell your brother what I'm doing on my vacation. I said to him, I'm seeing your brother this weekend. And he goes, oh, you can do an interview with him. Great. Just kidding. I would always leave the swimming pools of Palm Springs to talk to you.
He sent me a message saying, 17th of February we're doing it's soccer.
It's called soccer.
Okay, yeah. I might have training that day. It's okay, we can do it whenever. You're the boss, arrange training around it. And then he said, Friday, Rebecca, at your hotel. I said, it's match day -1, Gary, I'm really busy. He went, just organise it, you know.
So no, he's not here, of course. He's off on his holidays. But we are here and I want to talk to you about Major League Soccer. You're here in Palm Springs for a little bit of a pre-season tournament. Looking forward to coming tomorrow to watch you play. How nice is Palm Springs, by the way?
It's incredible.
Have you ever been anywhere quite like it?
No. My kids loved the movie, the Cars, didn't they?
Oh yeah.
Palm Springs
that was here, that's right.
Radiator Springs, so they're jealous that I'm down here. But we came here last year and there's like 8, 9 MLS teams here and we just have 4 or 5 games. It's so nice and the weather and the mountains are just...
I know, it's special.
It's like Berry, you know? It's
very
like Berry
similar.
in the summer.
Very similar. So it's been 4 months, virtually to the day, actually, since the end of last season to the start of this. That is quite a long off-season in this sport. So how do you structure it, firstly, for the players?
You know what? I think it's a massive problem for MLS players, you know, having like 8, 9 weeks off because there's always so much like gym work you can do, individual training you can do. And I think because of sort of like the players' union over here, we're not allowed to coach the players during that off season. So that they come back, I think it was the 13th of January from the last game against Vancouver. We weren't allowed to coach them, manage them, tactics them. So what you find is that, say the Colombian players, they go to Colombia, they train with the local team, they play in charity games and you just can't control. Can you imagine sort of like a Premier League player, like Marcus Rashford, just going on his holidays and playing in a local park against. But that's what our players have to do to stay fit. So I think the off seasons are too long. They come back, and you know when you say like pre-season, you have to take the whole time to get them fit, and it's a long time. Like our last game, obviously you knew how it went. The last game to now, it seemed like a year. The one thing it does allow you to do is have a nice holiday.
That's true. You look like you've had a lovely holiday. Very tan, looking very healthy, Philip. What about you in terms of around that holiday? How do you structure what, as the manager, as the head coach, you do in that time, other than have a holiday?
Well, the first 3 or 4 weeks is debrief, recruitment, because the time gives you time to scout players, and because the rest of the world are playing, you can watch so much football. I went over to England to watch Man United versus Everton. My son wanted to go and watch that, but it's just recruitment, watching players, building your roster. And then maybe the 20th of December, the whole club shuts down for the Christmas period, because before that you have the draft, you have all sort of like the re-entry drafts and all that. So there's really the busiest time of the season is in the off season for a coach, a GM, a sporting director, where you literally just build your squad.
That three, the GM, the sporting director and you, so in the UK it is getting more and more that the recruitment is not thrust upon the manager, they have a say in it, but it's very much sporting director. What's it like in Major League Soccer?
There's 2 models. There's probably 3 or 4 managers that are head coach and GM, so that they combine the role, and they do that, I think, just so they have total control. I think I've worked at 2 clubs now where I've had a sporting director, GM, and I've got to say, when you're recruiting and spending the kinds of money that we're spending now, you know, the 10s and 20 millions, one man shouldn't just be doing that. Right. You know, it should be a team of people, from recruitment to technical director to your assistant coaches, and I think at Portland and at Inter Miami, there was 6 or 7 of us around the table, and I've got to say is that every single one of us had to agree on a signing. And yes, there's probably myself and the GM probably has the final say, and I will be probably strong on a certain player, but unless my GM wants that player too, we don't sign that player. And it's likewise, if the GM likes a player and I don't, we don't sign that player, because I think at the end of the day, there's nothing worse. And I've experienced it where you sign a player and then that player doesn't do well. He signed him, and there's fingers pointed. So I think that sitting around the table and agreeing and having an alignment is vital. And I've been looking in the 2 clubs I've worked at as a manager, that's happened.
So how did recruitment go for you this break?
It was, I'd say the first 6 to 8 weeks we hadn't signed a player, or we hadn't even got rid of a player, and sometimes getting rid of players is equally as important as bringing in. And it got to sort of like December the 18th, and I was like, me and the GM was like, the owner's saying what's happening, and then all of a sudden we signed 2 or 3 players, and we wanted 6, I think it was. But them 3 players was like, I enjoyed Christmas, because I thought even if we just signed those 3 players, I think we'd be in good shape. And we've signed the players that I wanted at the right profile, age, energy, and I wanted to sort of like reinvent the team a little bit.
Can you talk us through those 3?
Yeah, we signed a young centre forward that was a Venezuelan from Shakhtar Donetsk, who was on loan at Cincinnati last year. He was 20 years of age, Kevin Kelsey. He's got the tools, I think, to be a superstar. I really think he's got so much development. He's not ready yet. He's not the finished article. His size, his power, he's got a left foot, he can head the ball. You know, I watched some of his games at Shakhtar Donetsk. He's going to be a real player. We've just signed a left back from Colombia, Jimmy Fori. It's funny, because America is so big, you cannot go to somebody's house and meet them. You know, so I take incredible sort of like importance in the Zoom call, the FaceTime. So we identified this left back. I watched him, I thought, wow, speed, power, defend 1v1, incredible in the air, 22 years of age. And I never sign a player until I've spoke to them. And the conversation that I have with a player is not about football, it's about mum and dad, girlfriend, their hobbies.
Because then you get more of a sense of them as a human?
Yeah, because I want to sign the person, not the player. And so the agent called me. He used to play for Aston Villa, Juan Pablo Angel. Do you remember him? So he was the agent of this player. Juan Pablo is one of the best agents around. And he said, look, this boy's shy, and you know, he speaks Spanish. I said, no problem. Me and my assistant was on the call, and the Zoom call came on, and honestly, it never happens. He was waiting in the waiting room for me. So I always go on 10 minutes before. And as I logged on and it says somebody's in the waiting room, straight away that was like box ticked. Yeah. And then as the camera came on, his smile was just like, I didn't need to say anything. I said, I've got to sign this guy. And then we just started speaking. All he kept asking was, I just want to come. When can we book the flight? When can we book the flight? We hadn't agreed a fee. We hadn't agreed salary. He didn't know what position he was going to be. We hadn't spoke about football. And, you know, I said, hey, you know, you have a girl? No, I come on my own. You bring your mum? No, I come on my own. When can I come? And I came off the phone and I spoke to the GM and I said, we have to sign this boy. It was a big deal. It was like $2.5 million, I think it was, for a left back. He came in, and from the very first day, you know, like as a manager, you don't have favourites in the team or sons. It's human nature that you have people that just you see him at breakfast, the smile just radiates. You know, it'd be the opposite to seeing Gary. You know what I mean? No, so that was probably.
So he settled in well.
He settled in well.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah. Okay, and the third player?
The third player, we've signed a couple of players that are sort of like, not journeyman MLS players, but players that have been in the MLS that we've wanted, sort of like stability, really good squad players that I'd worked with in the MLS before. So at the moment we're probably looking for one more player.
So that game against Vancouver nearly 4 months ago, which ended last season.
You didn't say you was going to ask me this question.
I said to you I was going to talk past, present and future, Philip. What I'm interested in is, of course, in other leagues, and let's just take the Premier League, for example, you can have a bad end to a season, right? You can have, but often it can be like over the course of maybe a few games. With the playoff system, and yours was the wildcard game, it's so quick, it's so brutal, it's so jarring how it can come to an end. What message do you give the players to go off onto that 10-week break that they're about to have, so that they don't have a heavy feeling on their shoulders?
No. Well, I wanted them to have a heavy feeling. You know, I was
right.
I was pissed. you know, and I was part of that. It was just as much as my fault as anyone. And you know, you have in America where you have sort of like you have your end of season debriefs, you have your end of season medicals, and you've got to sign off all the things that need signing off. And the last thing I didn't say words, I just showed them a graphic of Vancouver 5, Portland 0. I said, that's got to be our motivation. And you know, about 3 or 4 days after the game, we met as a group, and I said to my staff, I said, this is the best thing that's ever happened to this club. And I said that because maybe for the previous 12 months, from me coming in to sort of like the end of the season, we knew we had to make changes. But it takes time.
What kind of changes?
Well, there's people and players that have been at this football club for a long time.
Right.
There was a comfort. There was a real comfort within the team and within the organisation. And when I came in, that was part of sort of like the whole remit. We just have to sort of like freshen up the place. This is a brilliant club that the owner is like no other owner in world football. He's the most loyalist man ever. It's the most incredible quality. It's the reason I signed for this football club, because you look back, he keeps managers for 5, 6, 7. He hates sacking people. He wants continuity, which is success. But there also becomes a time when you need freshness as well, and we knew we had to change the roster. We needed to change the players, and there were some staff members that we had to turn round. So. But what we'd witnessed last year, we'd witnessed a period of maybe 12 to 14 games where the football was incredible. We were scoring goals. It was exciting. We scored more goals than any other team in the MLS. And you think you can get away with it. Oh, you're sticking plasters on rather than fixing the problem. And then the last probably 4 or 5 games of the season, we drew 2 at home, which cost us a real playoff. We went up to Seattle, we drew 1-1, but we won sort of like the Cascadia Cup, which is sort of like the competition between Vancouver and Seattle. And then 2 days later, we got annihilated at home. It was embarrassment at home against Vancouver. And I knew at the time the things I saw in that game was the things that I saw 12 months ago when I was interviewing for the job. Right. You know, the comfort, the staleness, the players that had probably had 3 years of not qualifying for the playoffs, that bit of, well, you know, you do what you always do, you get what you always get, and that's what we got in that playoff game. So from a situation where it was really sort of like, I was embarrassed a little bit, I was like, I wasn't surprised, and now it's time for action. And that's where sort of like myself, the coaches, the GM, the owner especially, just went into, right, we're gonna not rip it up, but we're going to make change.
So how do you ensure that comfort feeling doesn't have a presence at the club? Is that just a people thing? Move out the people you're talking about, maybe some staff members who've been there a while, maybe some players, or is it a culture that can spread? I relate it back to what I witnessed at Manchester United with Sir Alex, is that, and I was part of that, is that we had something really special, you know, from 96 to 2002, and then I saw Cantona leave, and I was like, what are you doing? And then somebody else came in and freshened it up. Then I saw Roy Keane leave, Brian Robson leave, David Beckham leave. Then all of a sudden, and then coaches came in and out. I worked Brian Kidd, Steve McLaren, Carlos Queiroz, Jim Ryan, Millenstein, Rennie Millenstein, and Mick Phelan. So all of a sudden, you're like, every 2 or 3 years he kept freshening it up. Every 2 or 3 years there was 2 or 3 players out, 2 or 3 players in. There was 2 or 3 coaches, and every sort of like 2 years, there was always a new coach, whether it was on the fitness side, the nutrition side, that would come in and just bring some new material, bring some new ideas, and it would just keep, I think he did it for himself as well, just keep himself sharp, but to keep moving forward. And I think that's probably how I've been. I think one of my probably biggest weaknesses is that I try and do it too quick. And I'd say that my brother is definitely one that's so fast-paced, and he wants to do it before it's even happened. But I think that ability not to get stale and get into the comfort zone is massive in life for anyone. And so this year was like, no, we need to bring some freshness. And I say that when I stood in front of my team, when we arrived in Palm Springs, I felt as if this is fresh, this is new. There was an energy in the room, and these are my players. And we've got probably 5, 6 players out. We've not got Evander back or the DP back, and I still feel like it's something really good. So there is such a huge thing now in football about having a philosophy as a manager. You've been a manager for a number of years now. Yeah. What is the Phil Neville philosophy? Because last season, 4th most amount of goals in the whole of Major League Soccer, both conferences combined. Yeah. Shipped a few as well. I did what? Shipped a few goals. So, you know, that's entertainment right there. What is the philosophy?
I want to play fast attacking football.
Okay.
Yeah, and people always say that to you, and when you speak to sort of like people in football, and you always have references, don't you? Are you a Pep style, a Simeone style, a Klopp style type thing? And I'd say that I always thought that I was sort of like, from finishing my career, Pochettino was always one that I thought, I love that style. Why? Because his sort of like, his philosophy was based off someone called Bielsa.
Yep.
So I studied him a lot when I was...
Marcelo Bielsa,
Yeah, I studied him a lot. I used to study videos of the way he trained, because the manager at Man United at the time, Sir Alex, he was at Atletico Bilbao, and he's told stories about him training for 2 hours on the day of the game, and I was like, that sounds like me, you know, like busy, you know, trained. So when Poch came to Southampton, his first game was against Everton. It was, and I was playing for Everton. And so from then on, I was on my pro license, and Pochettino's assistant coach was on my pro license, so we got really close. And then obviously Maurizio is the nicest guy in the world. And so that style, fast attacking football, building from the back, high press, high tempo, you know, I want my team to play without fear. And what I've laughed at, because when you're in America, you see all the stuff from back in England. You know, you Gary and Jamie, that, you know, like they wrote the Bible on football, and I say that they talk a lot about philosophy of Ange and Pep and Graham Potter, and so I was laughing the other week when I think Jamie was saying something about the Tottenham philosophy. You know, he's got to change, and then I think it was same at Amorim at Manchester United, and Amorim said something that was fundamentally right. He said, if I change, I'm dead. And I think it's right, because what you do is you sit in front of your players and you say, right, we're going to high press. We're going to play from the back. We're going to play fast attacking football. We're going to high press. We're going to take risks to win games of football. And so you see the pundits, oh, he's going to change, they're going to park the bus and all this business. You then 2-3 weeks later or 2 months later go in front of your players and say, right, guys, you know, we're going to play Simeone style football now. You're dead, because it's almost like if you was a player, you'd say, this guy's just blowing with the wind.
That's a little bit what's happening at Tottenham in the last couple of weeks. Ange
And I admire-
Postecoglou refused to change, but then he did change a little bit, and it's got even worse.
That's what happens.
Is that because the players just think, well, what?
Well, that's what happens. You actually, by changing, and I say that I did it once last year. We started the season really well. We were second in the league after 4 games, and then, funnily enough, we signed a DP player called Jonathan Rodriguez as a number 9. We didn't win for his first 9 games, and then, to cut a long story short, we worked out that his probably best position was playing more to the left, a little bit Thierry Henry like, centre forward drifting out to the left. We won this game at home against San Jose, and I played 3 at the back against San Jose because we'd not won for 9 games. I changed the system. I just wanted to change something, and we were 2-0 down at half-time. I was walking down the tunnel. The fans were booing. It was one of those where you think, I could be in trouble here. So I went in the dressing room. I took off 2 defenders. And I thought, fuck it. Like, you know, like, Sir Alex was like, if we're going to die trying. We're going to die fighting. So we went out in the second half. We played 2 centre-backs, and the 2 full-backs were wingers, and we just went for it. We won the game 4-2, and it was, like, unbelievable. It was like...
It was a great game, I remember it.
It was unbelievable. It was like, we went from, like, here to here. And I remember at the end, the owner's face was like, that's what I want to see. Right. Do you know, that's what I want to see. 3 days later, we went to Minnesota, and I played 3-5-2, park the bus. And I don't know why I did it. You know, I said, I do know why I did it, but I went away from that, if we're going to die trying. Yeah. That was my philosophy. We're going to go for it. And we went there, we went 1-0 up, and we were deep, we ended up losing 2-1. And do you know when you lose a fight without throwing a punch? That's how it felt. And so from then on, I came in on the Monday morning, and I said, guys, like, I know what we've got here, but we're just going to go for it in every single game.
That's really interesting. That game at Minnesota, when you did make that change, that one time before going back, what was it that made you change?
Do you know, I think I still had that 9-game... I was in survival mode a little bit. And when you go into survival mode, you stop thinking about winning, you start thinking about surviving.
Not losing.
Right. Surviving, survival mode. And that, I've only ever had that once or twice in my career. And that was one of them. Because of that, probably that walk down the tunnel, that you know, that sort of like stick I was taking. Even in the second half when we'd won 4-2, it was almost like that was relief rather than enjoyment.
Right.
Because we'd survived that night, and so I thought to myself, right, you start thinking, is this the right way to go with this group of players? Do I need to be a little bit more pragmatic, a bit? You see it yourself. You know, I see Robbie Mustoe on the telly saying, a bit more pragmatic, a bit more safe, and get member, you know, stop the, and sometimes it's just not as easy as that. I remember listening to Sean Dyche speaking a pro license talk, and the most refreshing thing he ever said, because you get sort of like these talks, and everything's brilliant. This is what I do. This is my philosophy. This is the games I've won. This is the contracts I've had. And the one thing that resonated me with, he stood up in the room and he said, sometimes you're on the touchline and you've got your assistant coaches behind you, and sometimes like you've got Arsenal or you're playing one of the top teams, and sometimes you actually don't know what to do. Do you know what I mean? And that is true.
How honest.
Like for a minute or two, you imagine all the rotations, and for 90 seconds, sometimes you probably think, right, shit, what do I do? And you've got your assistant coaches behind you who are all, you know what he's doing, him, you know, like, do you know what I mean? And so for a minute or two, then you've got to compose yourself, and you've got to say, right, action, solution, right, what do we do? And I thought that was the most refreshing thing, because we're human beings, do you know what I mean? You look what Pep's going through at the moment, and that gives me a little bit of confidence, you know, because we've all been there. What do we do? How do we turn it around? And his philosophy is so nailed on. The whole world is playing his football. He can't change his philosophy now, even though his team at this moment in time probably change it a little bit.
Can you imagine yourself on the touchline as the manager in England?
That would be my dream.
Is it still your dream?
Yeah, it's always been my dream.
Despite everything you just said about how it's not fun.
You know, I have Premier League managers regularly I speak to that say, don't.
Come back.
What you have out there is far greater than what I have here. And I'm like, I tune into, unfortunately, to watch you every Saturday morning. And I, you know, it's like, because that's where my life was, you know. But I've got to say that I'm in the best place.
But you still have the dream. You just said you still have the dream of going back. Do you think it might be a situation where the longer you're here and the longer you get used to American soccer and the more that you see what goes on at the Premier League level, which is, as you just said, so hard in different ways.
It's impossible.
Do you think that dream will stay? Or do you think one day you might come to a point think, actually, maybe...
I'm in no rush. In no rush. I look at my coaching journey of Premier League with Man United, then coaching the Lionesses. You know, I think all the time about I would walk back into women's football. It gave me the 3 of the best years of my career. Football and coaching, it gave me the 3 of the best years of my career. I speak to probably them players more than I speak to the class of '92. Do you know, I'm invested in what happens in women's football. So my coaching journey isn't, I'm not obsessed with the Premier League or going back there. I'm sort of like my success is I came to Inter Miami. I'm now at Portland. I'm now saying, I want to be here for the World Cup. I want to be in this country when the World Cup comes in 2026. And then, and like this year, we've got the Club World Championships, you've got the Gold Cup, you've got the all CONCACAF competitions. I went away with Canada and we were playing Guadeloupe, Honduras. And I was learning about footballers from different countries and cultures and ways of the nuances of sort of like South American football that you can't learn that on a coaching course or a pro license. And I'm like, I've done the Premier League. You know, I've played in the Premier League, so my thirst for getting back there, yes. Why? Because it's probably the best league in the world, and I want to test myself against the best. But that is not something that I wake up every morning like desperate to do, because I feel as if I'm in the best place with one of the best football clubs in America, in one of the best places to live ever.
It feels a bit like you're getting an education in football management that maybe if you had never left England, you never would have got.
No. I work with some brilliant coaches, and the one thing I learned from working with all those coaches and assistant coaches is that I just didn't want to be in the same job doing the same thing for 20 years.
Right.
I wanted to learn a language, I wanted to travel, I wanted to have a multicultural experience for me and my family. And I realised that when I stopped playing is that the best coaches are probably those that have not played, apart from Pep and maybe a few. So I had to go back to school. I had to, you think about the amount of time we spend, that students spend learning to be a doctor, 10 years.
Yeah.
I feel as if that's what I have to do to be the best possible coach, and I'm 6, 7, 8 years into it now. So I'm not under no illusion to say that I'm in this for the long haul. I can't stop working, so when I'm 80, 85, I still want to be Bobby Robson and Roy Hodgson. I admire people like that, so that's where I feel.
What do you love about America?
Everything.
Do you?
I really do.
Me too.
I speak like an American now.
You do a little bit.
Yeah.
Gary hates
hard,
it, by the way.
it?
It is hard because you're around Americans,
Yeah.
and it's the inflection as opposed to, and also it's the words. Do you say a lot of? I say a lot of American words, Philip. Trump.
Yesterday we were doing this thing in training where I needed a bin. Like game where you play head to head and.
Oh yeah.
And I said, could I have a trash can? I thought if Gary heard me now,
Changed.
and then
but you have to.
You have to.
Otherwise,
do you know what I love about Americans?
Go on.
They love the English.
They do.
They love.
Why do they love us?
Do you know they love my accent? And do you know
That's
what I mean? In
amazing.
England, everybody hates my accent, but
do.
here I'm posh. I'm posh. I got called Jamie Tart from Ted Lasso the other day. Yeah, that was. Well, everyone loves Ted Lasso,
I know.
And the Americans really admire the English, and they love our royals, and like I say, the Premier League. You speak to all the players here Saturday morning. We have to arrange sort of like breakfast time and stretch times around
the pre-game
watching
show
you
and half-time.
Watching Robbie Mustoe and Tim Howard. And,
do you really? Seriously? Because it's that big a part of everyone's life. It's amazing, isn't it?
It's incredible. The big problem I have is East Coast to West Coast is that the 12:30 kickoff in England is a killer on the West Coast.
It's a 4:30
and the night
AM.
games is midday, which means that we have to. So I'd say that the East Coast for Premier League is better than the West Coast just because of the timings. But America, what it's got incredible food. Each state is its own country, its own culture, their own identity. And I'd say I love the college system. I'm in love with basketball.
Oh, really?
The trade this week.
The huge one.
The huge one. It's like...
Doncic, is it?
Yeah, Doncic and AD.
From Dallas to LA?
LA Lakers.
Is that right? That was a huge story,
the biggest
wasn't
trade. It'd be like Messi and Ronaldo swapping,
Amazing.
And I can't discuss that with anyone in England because I just get hammered. But that all week, me and my son would just been like, no way. And then Jimmy Butler's gone to Golden State Warriors. We was in Miami. He was our boy in Miami. So you just have to embrace the culture. You know more than anything.
Well, I think you're actually quite American in the way that you are as a person, because I think which is a good thing, it's a compliment.
Loud.
A little bit loud. No.
Likes food.
No, I think Americans are full of energy, full of initiative. They do things, like I've used this example before. I remember, in England growing up, right, it's always raining. So you're like, weekends just spent in front of the grandstand and that's an old sports TV show, and like kids TV, and maybe you might just go down the local shops and go to like W.H. Smith and then come back, right? That's your weekend. Here, they're snowboarding, they're sailing, they're out on the lake. Like they do things, they have loads of energy. And my point is, you have a ton of energy. When you came in at NBC, my God, it's like a hurricane. You have so much energy, you have so much positivity, you have a lot of like get up and go. And that's why I think
do you know
you're
the
very
one thing
American.
I love about America more than England is that here, if you're successful here,
totally.
They
celebrate
like
it.
For instance, if you have a Ferrari here or a Rolls Royce, they don't want to put a coin down the side of it stood outside Tesco's. They stand outside your car and say, would you mind me having a picture? Because this car is unbelievable. They admire, they aspire to be that person that's successful. I never forget a quote that Nick Faldo made, and he moved to America, and it must have been about 20 years ago. He said the biggest difference between England and America is that when you have a big house on the top of a hill in England, everybody wants to rob it. In America, everybody wants to aspire to be like that person. And I thought that that's a really good analogy of and you see it with Premier League footballers. Everybody wants to kill the successful person. And in America, everybody wants to aspire to be that person. That's why you get so much more confidence in people, I think. Confidence in people, the way they dress, the way they act, is that because it's just that they want excellence and they applaud excellence, and I think that's something that us Brits could probably learn from is that successful people have worked hard, and in America people aspire to be like that person, not want to destroy that person.
I love it. Just before we go, targets this season. Obviously in Major League Soccer,
a good shot target, isn't it?
Oh my God, that's another thing. That's another thing England should learn.
Yeah.
Open a Target. How good is Target? But I was at Target this morning.
Seriously.
So 8:30 a.m.
When my wife wants to go to Target, I've no idea what she's going to get. You know, like you go to the supermarket.
Get everything.
You go to Target, she could come out with a bikini.
Oh yeah.
Or a bag of crisps.
Or a saucepan.
Or a saucepan. Or a microwave. Or a phone.
Or a bike. It's amazing. But the targets for you, for Portland Timbers, right? Obviously, it's to make the playoffs like you did last season.
Yeah.
Do you ever look further ahead at a Major League Soccer club than the playoffs, or is it just about the playoffs?
Playoffs.
That's it.
I think there's stages to the season. I think playoffs top 7 is definitely, like last year we finished in the playing game. We don't want the playing game this year. I don't class that as the playoffs, I've got to say. I think if you finish in the top 7, you're in a playoff team. So I think this club hasn't qualified for the last 3 years. Success for me is top 7, and then once you get in that playoffs, it's anybody's. It's literally, this league is literally 1 to 15 in the Western Conference. Anyone can beat each other. The cap system means is that everyone's equal. So I think with the supporters we've got, with the stadiums that we've got, with the stadium we've got, with the atmosphere, it's a 3-game series, the playoff, where we can beat anybody at home, and you get 2 games at home. So that would be the short-term game.
And are you going to come back and see us on NBC? Because you know Gary's taken your spot.
He's keeping it warm, isn't he?
He's keeping it warm.
He's keeping it warm. No, look.
You come and see us again.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
I loved it, yeah.
Did you though,
yeah.
Really?
It's a long old day, isn't it? You're like, coaching was hard, but spending that much time with you was really difficult. I mean, geez.
Oh, Phil, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm so excited to be here on my vacation. No, genuinely, it's been lovely. Wishing you all the luck for the season. We will be watching.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this special episode of It's Called Soccer.
Thank you.
Well, that is all we have time for on this very special Major League Soccer episode of It's Called Soccer. Next week, I will be rejoined by Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher, so make sure you join us, and don't forget you can watch us on Spotify and on YouTube, and you can listen to us, of course, on Apple Podcasts. So make sure you subscribe, and we will see you next Wednesday. Bye for now.